Hello.
Nicole,
Hey.
you are live here on the Pepper Stewart Show. What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Pennsylvania,
Pen-
outside of Philadelphia.
Okay. All right. We knew it was a different time. Just weren't sure how different or how far.
We're about an hour apart.
Hour? Okay. That's not
Hour
bad.
and different.
That is not too bad at all. So, we were talking about this here a little bit earlier. The Bandita Bonita and Billy the Kid.
It is about Billy the Kid, yes.
Yes. So what about Billy the Kid that got you to write these books? What is it about him that piqued your interest?
Well, I don't know where to start with this, to be honest with you, but I will say this. When I was 13, I went to see Young Guns. And, I mean, I'm a girl. I've always been interested in the West. Don't know where that came from, because I was quite young. But this is what got me to see the movie, and I was so, just the charisma from Emilio Estevez just kept me, like, glued to the screen. And I saw Billy the Kid up there. Didn't know who he was at that point. I knew about him. Didn't start researching him until after that. So this is, for years I've researched him. I didn't really start doing it intensely until 2009 because, I had a lot of growing up to do. Kind of went off on a couple of things and then came back to it. But that's, I guess, really where it started. And the more I learned about him, his life is so ripe for storytelling. I mean, the kid's orphaned. I think about 15, his mother died, and then his stepfather turns him away, doesn't want anything to do with him, and he had gotten caught stealing some clothes. Well, his friend had stole clothes, and he hid them for him, and this was his first escape. Sheriff threw him in Silver City, threw him in the jail, and he shimmied up the chimney and got out. And he only did it to kind of scare Billy, but, Billy was scared, and he took off and went to his stepfather, turned him away, and then goes off, kills a man in self-defense, steals the horse, and then winds up returning the horse because a year or so earlier, a friend of his, they were stealing horses, and they were caught by the military, and they're thrown in jail. He escapes again. After that, he never stole another horse. So his whole life is just crazy. It's romantic on so many levels. So I just wanted to put it out there, and was my way of trying to do that.
Now, when you were writing the book and putting all this together, how important was it to you to kind of keep with the history of Billy the Kid?
100%. That was the whole point. I started out writing a biography, and then I thought, what am I doing this for? And basically I wanted to write it from my point of view. But then I realized, well, I'm just writing things. I mean, there are so many biographies on him, and I'd just be taking other people's hard work because all of the really difficult stuff that's being looked into, where he came from, where he was actually born, who his father was, if his mother was really his mother or not, et cetera, that stuff is for, the people, the historians who are actually researching this, and I know who they are, and I hope they do very well with it. But with what we do know, I wanted to transcend genres, hopefully, from the Western into mainstream, and the way to do that was to do it the way I was writing it. But, again, the most important part was to get his story right. That was the whole point. If I wanted to try and expand on his story, which he really probably doesn't need me to do, if we're honest, because it's 2017, and this is a kid who died over 130 years ago, and we're talking about him right now. So, but that was the point. So, very, very important to me.
Now, when you're working on a book like that, and you get in the zone, you get focused, you've got your idea, and you're rolling with it. How much time is involved in that? Like on a daily basis, how much time does an author put into a story?
In the writing, and that is a somewhat difficult. I mean, I can't speak much for other authors. Generally, I do know that they tend to do outlines, and they commit themselves to certain hours a day. In general, I don't do that. I call myself the Fonzie of writing because I write what I want. I have to feel that. That emotion has to come out on that page for me, or else it's no good. I can't put limitations on my creativity, or I can't stifle my creativity by forcing myself to sit down. So I am constantly thinking of my stories and my characters, and it gets to the point where I'm living their lives. I mean, mind you, I can separate reality from fantasy, so there's no problem there, but it takes up an inordinate amount of my time, and then I get in the mood to write it down, and or I think of something really great, have to write it down. That's my process. It might seem a little free-spirited to other authors, but that's what works for me. So nothing's set. I do it when I want.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's when it hits you, and you got to get it down and get to going. So.
I do. I got to get it down. I absolutely will. Even if I have to write it by hand, which I hate doing because I type 100 words a minute. But if I am in a place where it's really unfortunate to do, like I wrote the first book. I was working full time. I wrote it on lunch at night and on weekends. Got it done. Had to get that book done. But if when I'm in an unfortunate position here, if I'm like working and I come up with an idea, I have to hurry up and quick write that down. I have to. It's too important to me not to do that. And I got my work done. It was no big deal. But, yeah, I will write it down. Even if I'm sleeping and I am dead tired, I will get up and write it down.
Now, as far as your book writing goes and stuff like that, what would you consider to be a great accomplishment in your writings?
A great accomplishment as far as my writing goes? Well, I've got the 2 books in the series out, but getting that first book done was a major accomplishment. There are a lot of aspiring writers, and they think, I want to write a book someday, or I'm sure I'm going to write a book someday, and fortunately I never had that kind of optimism. I thought if I don't figure out how to write a book someday before I die, I'm going to be mad. And fortunately, I was naturally inclined into understanding the intricacies of writing a novel, but there are people who are on the opposite side who think it's easy, and then when you get into it, it's like being thrown into a tornado and tossed out on the other side. So getting that first book done and understanding, like I said, that the mechanics of what needs to go into a story as far as character development, protagonist, antagonist, what their points are, subplots, et cetera, once I got that done, and I realized how hard it was, a lot of hours spent. People look at books, they don't think about that. The hours, the blood, that's literally my soul on those pages. Once that was done, I got to the second one, and of course I knew the story. I wrote it in my head for 3 years. Like I said, I don't really do the outline. I have to believe it. Once I got that first one out, it was easy after that to write a book, and I don't want by any way to say it's easy. I don't mean it like that. It's just you get it done. The accomplishment itself kind of gives you the confidence to move forward and say, okay, I can do this. And now you've already been through. In my opinion, it does.
Is there a writer out there that you look up to, or somebody that you've read that kind of inspires you a little bit?
I can't say that today. There really is. In fact, I look at reading a lot different now that I write. But Stephen King, I would say when I was younger, my teens and 20s, because his character, was able to connect, and he's still a great writer. I just don't think he does it as well as he did, if I can say that. But he's able to get his audience the intuition of that, to understand the intuition of that character. He puts you in their head, and you're able to empathize. Okay, granted, you feel the desperation because it's Stephen King, and you feel you're not feeling happy things. You're thinking kind of sad thoughts, but it's working. It works. So that resonated with me, being able to put yourself into characters' thoughts, and actions, not just dialogue or narration, but the way he does it. I'll just say for, I guess, the layman, he puts it in italics when you're in their mind, and I love that. Outside of that, especially after writing a book, I love books still. I love great stories, but I see the mechanics. I know when an author's trying to shoehorn sympathy in for a character, and whether I'm buying it or not. So I've seen the man behind the curtain and the way it works, so that's hard, and I don't mind that. I'd rather be a writer than lose myself completely in a book now. I just think at this point, especially accomplishing that myself, anybody who can write a book and who commits to it and they finish it, and I'm taking a break from the third book. I am halfway through, by the way, in the series, but I'm working on a young adult book that's contemporary based now. It's not has nothing to do with the West or, cowboys or anything. What was that? Where was it? Okay, authors. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I've seen, so when I read books now, I just, I just read the stories and I kind of pay attention a little bit to what's going on, and I don't always remember the authors' names. I mean, I completely admit that. I don't remember. So I can't say there is, Pepper. I'm sorry. I went off on a tangent on you there.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff. Now,
I guess it is good. Okay.
It's good information for people that want to know. People out there that don't write, they want to know they want to hear the ins and outs of how you perceive other things. Just like the same thing, for me, for instance, say I'm watching a TV show that's got rodeo in it or ranching in it, and you're sitting there and you're picking all the stuff, going, well, that's not right. They don't do that. That's not how that works. And
you notice that stuff.
Yeah.
You notice it, and it doesn't take me out of the story. In fact, I'm kind of glad I notice it. I know it kind of helps me, because you're always constantly trying to self-improve. That's what we do as human beings, and so as a writer, it's good for me to notice that stuff. And I don't want to discourage anyone, but my advice to them, and I don't know if you were going to ask me this question at some point, but it's a question that is always asked. Is never, and the answer to that, you may notice repeatedly, is never give up. I don't say that. I don't give that advice. Someone has that kind of stamina and fortitude, more power to them. I would never take that away from them, but it's very hard. I say be prepared to do the work. Authors do their research, and if you want a good book, even if people don't like your story, if you want to write good characters, you need to know how to do that, and you need to put a lot of effort into that. It's hard. It's not an easy endeavor. But like I said, I don't want to discourage. I just, want to give you the facts there, for anybody who does want to get involved with it and want to do it. You can do it. You can if you're really committed to doing it. And I was committed to doing it, thank God, I've always wanted to do it, so.
Now, you mentioned some books. You mentioned another book you're working on, so you've got some upcoming stuff that's going to be coming out?
Well, it's not going to be coming out anytime soon, unfortunately. I kind of wanted to have it done by the end of the summer, and maybe I will. I've got it's actually finished technically. 60,000 words constitutes a novel. I have probably I'm guessing, somewhere between 20 and 25,000 words left that I want to get to, and I'm working out the ending, and this is just the first draft. So, and I always do my first draft as well as I can. I don't just get down the bones of it. I like to write it as if I'm writing a story, so that by the time I get to the second draft, it's going to have a lot in there that I can either take away or I'm going to have enhanced on it, and then the third draft. And I can usually get through that stuff pretty quick. In fact, it only took me 3 months to write the first novel of Bandita, and that is 185,000 words. It's an epic-length novel. But it took me 3 years in my head of writing it, mind you, because I wanted to get it right. So. And then the second book took me about the same time. But second books, they're all part of the same story. Third book, same story, because it's the third book. And there will be a coda, so it'll be a fourth book that's separate from this trilogy. But the young adult book, I would have liked to have that done as soon as possible. But like I said, I don't really rush these things and put constraints on my creativity. So... But that's what I'm working on now, because I've got the 2 books in the series out there. Let them kind of get out and percolate, and let me get into another genre, that kind of thing.
Now, if somebody's looking for these books, where would be the best place to send them to find these books?
God, I'd say Google, because they are available on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble, but they're also available at a lot of independent bookstores. Okay. So if there's any local, they can check with their bookstore, and if they don't have it in, they can probably order it. They should be able to order it. It does sell in New Mexico, fortunately for that, in Sumner, in fact, which is fabulous for me. But that's where, anywhere, they can just Google it and find it, or go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Okay, we'll send them that way, and let them know about that, where they can find it. It's good stuff, some good reading, and we're looking forward to the next one coming out, concluding, adding to the goodness you've got going right now. And we'll be looking forward to that. And Nicole, we do appreciate you visiting with us and telling us just a little about you, about your writing style and the process and things. And we hope to hear from you again, maybe when this next one comes out.
Okay, yeah, well, it would be whenever that. I love being on your show. Thank you so much for having me on it.
Well, thank you for visiting with us, and
Absolutely.
we'll catch you down the road.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.